Morning again, guys. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about putting puzzle pieces together in the economy, U.S. economy, and the world economy all at once here, because things are starting to get a little more obvious about what's going on. Uh, on Saturday, I think it was in the live stream, I had mentioned to everybody if you were looking at buying gold or whatever, silver, wait for a pullback. Okay, we are seeing that. I mean, gold right now is over $100 less than its high point it reached. It's right now at 1957 as I'm recording this. Silver's down 3.5%, down at 25 and a quarter, basically. All right, like I said, wait for a pullback. Potentially, this is not enough yet to go after the market, and I'm going to explain why. It's kind of all working together here. I think what's going on is we're being misled. Go figure. This whole Russia-Ukraine war has nothing to do with Donetsk, Lugansk, Crimea, anything of the sort. I mean, teeny tiny, but very little. Okay. It's a joint effort between Russia and China to bankrupt NATO. Okay. Pushing them to see how far they're going to go. Now, we look at why I say this. I'll give you this real quick. The latest report out of the Bank of Russia says that and this is before sanctions, guys, okay, only 22% of its international reserves were in the dollar. 23% were in gold. China and Russia, or the other way around, Russia and China, respectively, are the fifth and sixth largest holders of gold in the world. And they've been adding to their gold stockpiles very quickly, and over the last 5 or 6 years, too. The intention seems to be to destroy the Western economy. And how can they do this? Well, I mean, they're playing the West for fools. We put sanctions on them, and Biden and everything. Biden's kind of going this alone, figuring, oh, we won't buy oil, everything like that. It'll force Russia to spend its gold and everything like that. Guys, 10% of the world's gold comes from Russia. Okay. They aren't trying to spend it. They're trying to accumulate more. So if they can weaken the dollar and they own the gold, then eventually what you have is, again, going back to the Weimar Republic, now all of a sudden the dollar's worthless. Okay? How could that happen? All right, well, there's a real possible scenario here that could cause a crisis for the dollar. The most realistic one is when you get a combination of high inflation and high debt. Gee, we all know where our debt is, and you can't get away from the inflation, okay? So what that causes is higher consumer prices, of course, and forces the Fed to sharply raise interest rates, all right, to basically slow down demand. Now, what did I just say about higher interest rates? Well, higher interest rates is going to cause a collapse in the stock market. It will cause a collapse in the price of gold, which will allow Russia and China to buy more of it that much faster, okay? If the U.S. government gets to a point where they start to have a problem paying their interest, i.e., like I've told you many times about the 10-year Treasury, which is now at 2.1%, guys, okay? Foreign creditors are going to start dumping the dollar and forcing the dollar to collapse. The U.S. has gotten rich ever since Bretton Woods in 1944. on the dollar being the reserve currency. Okay, it's kept our economy relatively stable, where other economies in the world do this. Why? Because most of the rest of the countries in the world have to keep dollars on hand to participate in international trade. Okay, so the currency exchange does not affect them that much. Sure, their money may get more valuable and or less valuable, but ours stays relatively stable, the dollar. Okay. If all of a sudden the dollar starts collapsing, okay, then all of a sudden all these other world currencies start becoming worth more. If all the world currencies start collapsing, other than a few, i.e. the yuan, okay, gold becomes more and more and more valuable. I've said before, the world going on the gold standard is not feasible, okay, unless you drastically change the price of gold, and then if it's not priced in dollars or whatever it would be, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to that. So, again, supply and demand, something's only worth what somebody else will give you for it. As much as people want to say, well, gee, you know what? We just need to make the gold worth $100,000 an ounce. Well, great. Okay, you want to increase the price of gold 50-fold. Now your Big Mac now costs you $250. It's all relative, guys. Okay, you can't just take one and everything else stays the same. Look at your $15 minimum wage. Everybody got paid more money. Did it keep the prices the same? No, everything got more expensive. Same idea. This seems to be more of the play that Russia's got going on, and all this talking, and we're, Poland, Latvia, like I talked about this morning, sanctions, China, you name it. If the backroom deals are to bankrupt the West, this is a real good way of doing it. Now, mind you, giving away weapons, planes, helicopters, whatever it is, somebody got to pay for that. Okay, so that's, for the most part, the U.S. taxpayer. Moving all that stuff, somebody's got to pay for it. Okay, it's a lot more difficult to move fighter jets, Stingers, whatever it is, from the United States to Eastern Europe than it is to move it within Russia. Okay, so even though there's some cost, you've got a cost difference like this. So all it's doing is putting more and more pressure on the economy of the West, okay? Putin's no dummy, and they know the easiest way to destroy the United States is economically. Not that the United States isn't doing a great job of destroying it on their own, but if you want to ramp up the scenario, do it a lot quicker. So this comes into, again, how do you protect yourself? And again, we've talked about this many times. Hard assets, land, precious metals, whatever it would be. By no means am I saying go out and buy gold, go out and buy silver right now. All right, I'm just saying this. I would at least wait until after we hear what we hear on Wednesday afternoon. Because, with gold here, what did I say it was, 1957? Yeah, 1957. We could feasibly see gold drop $100 more after Wednesday. Get a 50 basis point cut or 50 basis point hike. I keep doing it. 50 basis point hike, yeah, we're going to see a drop in gold. We're going to see a hemorrhaging in the stock market. Okay. If they only do 25%, that's not going to have a whole lot of effect on the U.S. economy. It won't have a whole lot of effect on the price of gold or anything like that. So it's a lose-lose situation right now for the West, and a win-win situation for the East. They are doing their damnedest to destroy the economy. We all know that China wants the yuan to be the world reserve currency. If that happened, if all of a sudden countries have to start or could start dumping the dollar and getting yuan instead. That would cause us to go into a severe recession, if not a depression. Okay. Which is why prepping is so important. And whatever you can get, I mean, look at what's going on in Venezuela. Look at what happened in Zimbabwe. Look at the Weimar Republic. Look at a little bit of what's going on in Russia. It's not kicking their butt yet, all right? Some things have got significantly more expensive. Some haven't, okay? When the ruble, which is now trading at about 112 to the dollar, remember it was up at 140 here a few days ago, and it seems to be stabilizing. Not good, okay? This is still a 50% whack on the ruble. It's making the Russians a lot harder to afford anything. But imagine if we had something like that here, and all of a sudden we don't see 7-8% inflation like we do, but in 3 weeks we see 50% inflation, hyperinflation, guys. This is what Rudy's talked about, I've talked about, a lot of people have talked about numerous times. This is coming. You need to be prepared for this. You need to own whatever you can, because good old Joe has this pipe dream in his head that if anything goes bad, they're just going to start confiscating land, start confiscating houses, doing whatever. You know, we kind of talked about that House bill between Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi the other day that fell apart. That can be done on a federal level. Now, when they start trying to take that stuff, you need to be able to defend that stuff. And again, we're talking about hard assets. And how are they going to take it? Well, they're not going to come knock on your door and say, congratulations, we're foreclosing or repossessing your house or whatever it is. They're going to jack up your taxes to the point that you can't pay them. You need to have something that is a real asset to pay those taxes, because the dollar is now a wheelbarrow full of nothing. Okay, the wheelbarrow is worth more than the money. But if you've got the gold, the silver, whatever, that potentially could be something that has value, that will be how you end up saving your land, your property, whatever would be. This is all economic, guys, and it's starting to get a little bit more obvious when you peel back the onion a little bit and look at what China and Russia are doing. They're not going to say it, but that's exactly how can we get the West to spend a ton of money? Well, we can start a war and get them involved. That's the fastest way to cause a recession, a depression. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it without a shot being fired. Hey, it's just regular business. We're just doing whatever. Okay. They don't have to be on U.S. soil to do this. Crushing the economy is easier than you thought, especially with the fools we have in Washington who keep spending it when we don't have it. High inflation and high debt is what will be the end of our constitutional republic. They're playing the game with it. Whether or not somebody else figures this one out, who's a hell of a lot smarter than me, I don't know. But Wednesday, 2 o'clock, when the Fed has its announcement on interest rates, the whole world's going to change real fast. And we just need to be aware. Pinball out.